Hello everyone, Lisa DeNight here. I'm excited to be selecting another pick for Bryn Mawr Film Institute's weekly online discussion series. The film I'm recommending this week is Otto Preminger's 1947 film Daisy Kenyon. Based on a novel by Elizabeth Janeway, the film is about a successful working woman played by Joan Crawford who finds herself in a love triangle with a psychologically troubled World War II vet, played by Henry Fonda, and a married lawyer, played by Dana Andrews. This film ostensibly fits into a cycle of women's pictures during the 30s and 40s, many of which starred Joan Crawford, that delved into the internal emotional life of their female protagonists. But as much as Daisy Kenyon shares DNA with genres like melodrama or cinematic cycles like the women's picture, it's very much its own unique thing, with Preminger always making choices in his direction of the narrative and the characters that are just slightly different than the classic Hollywood formula would seemingly dictate, but without upending traditional structure entirely. The way this film handles character development is one of its most interesting aspects. The film's love triangle plot is simple enough. It's really through the characterization of our three leads and Preminger's objective, judgment-free exploration of them that this becomes a complex and rich cinematic experience. The characters are ambivalent and contradictory, often opaque, perhaps even to themselves, and our understanding of their motivations and decisions shifts and deepens as the film goes along. Before Preminger became a director, he studied law, and his affinity for law comes through in many of his films, including this one, which inevitably end up with scenes set in the courtroom. But he also had this wonderful sort of impartial method of direction where he declined to ever pass judgment on his characters, instead putting the onus on the viewers to draw their own conclusions. The performances by Andrews, Crawford, and Fonda are all exceptional in this film. And although Joan Crawford is assuredly our protagonist, all three seem to be on the same field of equal importance to the viewer. Otto Preminger loved actors that were not overly performative, and therefore particularly liked Dana Andrews and used him in a couple of his films. And he was also very pleased with Henry Fonda's more naturalistic approach to acting. With Crawford, who was certainly a big performer, he had more challenges, but succeeded in finding ways to subdue her acting technique to fit his aims for the film. And she ends up giving one of her most restrained performances as Daisy. This was a role she really wanted, too. She had appeared in her first mother role 2 years before with her Oscar-winning turn in Mildred Pierce, and she was desperate to prove she could still play a compelling romantic lead, so she fought for this role, even though it was initially written to be a much younger woman. But she pulls it off with aplomb, of course. In fact, that's one of the reasons Daisy Kenyon feels so modern to me, is because everyone in this love triangle was generally the same age, in their late 30s, early 40s, and it suggests that messy matters of the heart can afflict all strata of age groups. Another element that gives this film its own unique texture is the multitude of political and social subtexts and questions the film weaves into the primary drama. For example, the way the film approaches the effects of a loveless marriage and adultery and divorce on children is quite powerful and complex, especially for films of this period. It also weaves in concepts like Ph.D. and racism. Dana Andrews' character takes on a case that involves a Japanese American, and the way that subject is treated definitely intimates Otto Preminger's progressive social consciousness at play. My final note is on the look of the film. Sometimes Daisy Kenyon is, in my opinion, erroneously called a film noir. In fact, my DVD of it is released as part of Box's film noir series. So I would say do not go into Daisy Kenyon expecting a film noir, but it does definitely take from film noir's playbook. By the late 40s, film noir had expanded out of its initial beginnings in the crime vein and bled into other genres where directors and cinematographers often borrowed elements of the style to express something about a film's worldview or the characters within the final product without fully being a part of the film noir movement. So look for a film noir flavor in the film's cinematography and lighting, which certainly does create an appropriate environment for the characters to exist in, considering their feelings of uncertainty and ambivalence and psychological and emotional angst. So with that, I invite you to check out Daisy Kenyon on one of a handful of streaming platforms, and I hope you'll join me and Bryn Mawr Film Institute's Senior Director of Education, Andrew Douglas, to chat about it next Monday, May 17th at 6:30 p.m. Until then, goodbye.